I'm here with Philomena Schwab, the outstanding young game developer and marketeer from Zurich in Switzerland, and she's the founder of Stray Fawn. Philomena was listed on Forbes 30 Under 30 in technology in Europe and has had some phenomenal experience with Kickstarter, raising $72,000 on her first game, and that went on to sell over 200,000 copies. Welcome to the business of indie games. We're really happy to have you here, and I'm so excited to speak with you today.
Thanks. Nice to meet you too.
Great. So, well, let's dive straight in. You've got a pretty cool story of developing a great game that's sold, as we said, over 200,000 copies. It straddles genetics, education and survival. Can you tell us about, it's called Niche, isn't it, your game?
Yes, exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit about the game?
Yes, it's a strategy simulation game where you are in control of a group of animals and you're basically trying not to go extinct, and you move through different biomes and always have to adapt to the surroundings, try to fend off the predators, find some new sources of food. And as you mentioned, it has an educational aspect because the genetics are actually at least trying to be realistic genetics and how it actually works with breeding. And we also have some biology teachers who use it in class now. That's very cool.
Wow, it sounds really great, actually. Can you tell us about how you built the prototype and the work that you went into testing the strength of your idea?
So it was originally my final thesis from university, and I couldn't decide at first if I want to study game design or biology. Then I decided to go with game design. But I knew from the start that as my final project, I want to do a game about biology. So I had a lot of time already during my studies to think about what I want to do. And genetics was the most interesting aspect of biology for me. And so I just had about 2 months of time to build this first prototype at university. So I had some time to do it. And then I just basically uploaded it online as a browser game at first, so to make it as accessible as possible, and started a little Facebook group. Yes, and then I invited some people in there.
What did you make the game in?
Unity.
Unity, okay, thank you.
Yes, it's Unity. It's what we mostly used when I was studying, so it was just a natural choice for me back then. And then I invited some people who thought might be interested, and they started inviting some more people. And then after a few months, I had a couple of 100 people in there. It was very cool because some of them were dog breeders and cat breeders, and they told me exactly what is not accurate about the genetic display in the game. So it was very cool to iterate on the scientific aspect of the game with them.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's a really good start. But actually you grew that community to be able to go for a whole Kickstarter campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, I mean, our audience is mainly indie developers, maybe making their first game or their third or fourth game. Can you tell us step by step how you built your newsletter list so that your game achieved, the 72,000 on Kickstarter?
Yes, I actually wrote my final thesis at university about this topic. So I had quite a lot of time to slowly build up the fan base and to analyze how it's been building up. And with the newsletter, it basically just started that we went to all kinds of different events and had a newsletter sign-up list. And just in the end, we found a couple of thousand people there who signed up. It was a lot of work to manually put everything into the mail program. But we also tried to do it digitally, so you enter your email into an iPad or something. And people didn't really like that. They want to really write down their email. So we had to put in that work, put everything into digital format, and then just started sending out newsletters whenever we had a new update for the game. At that point, everything was free. You could just play the whole game as it was back then for free. And when we were sure that we had a couple of 100 people who would back us and support us, that's when we launched the Kickstarter campaign. For our second game, that was a whole different story because there we only had 1 month of preparation for the Kickstarter. We had delayed the first game launch twice and had already announced the Kickstarter. So there we had to come up, and we didn't really have a big newsletter or anything. So there we needed to come up with a plan. And what we did there is that if you wanted to download the demo for the game, you had to sign up for the newsletter. And that actually resulted in over 50,000 newsletter signups during the month of the Kickstarter, which was very big for us. Yes.
Wow. And where did those 50,000 people come from? Did they come from the Kickstarter community itself?
No, not really. We mostly, when we launched the Kickstarter, we didn't really advertise the Kickstarter because Kickstarter is not really that big news anymore. We just advertised the free demo that everybody could try out, mostly on Twitter, Facebook, Imgur, Reddit, and also 9gag. And
right.
Most of the traffic came in from these.
So I see. So you announced the demo, the free demo, and then that's where you got the 50,000 from. And then those people went through to the Kickstarter campaign.
Yes. Also, in the demo, there was a big pop-up that we're currently running a Kickstarter campaign. So if you downloaded the demo, there was no way to miss that the Kickstarter was going on. And then we thought, I mean, if somebody is not even willing to download the free demo and give it a try, then they're also certainly not willing to put money into the Kickstarter. So it was like a logical step for us. And then whenever we reached a new stretch goal, we basically sent out an information about this on the newsletter, and most of the backers came in then from the newsletter, basically. And then we also, with the demo, we could also send it to YouTubers and Twitch streamers. And then again, they told their viewers, if you want to try it out too, you can download the demo, and that also resulted in more and more signups.
Wow, thank you. Did you do a green light on Steam before you did the Kickstarter?
With Niche, yes, we did green light back then, yes.
Right, and did you build up some community from there then?
Yes, I actually liked green light a lot. I would still appreciate if it was around, because it was really the first step to bring in some people. Back then, I think it was a good idea if you do your green light at the same time as your Kickstarter, because then you have a lot of synergy. But nowadays, there's no green light anymore, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still very insightful. Is there anything else unique that you did? I mean, I've spoken to some guys who have hand-linked Facebook members if they've shown an interest in that game genre, for example. Did you do anything like that?
Yes, we did quite a lot of outreach to similar communities that didn't have to be in the games community. For example, one of the inspirations for the game was a book series called Warrior Cats, which is a children's book series or young adult series about cats that live in a forest, wild. And then I reached out to the author and said that her books were an inspiration. And she liked that a lot. And then she gave us a couple of social media shout outs over the time. And that resulted in a lot of teenage girls joining our Facebook group. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And then before the Kickstarter, we also started a collective of game developers, which is called Playful Oasis. And it's about 30 or so game developers or different studios that all make games related to nature and biology. And then we set up a web page together. And thanks to that, I got in touch with a lot of developers who have a similar audience. And I could ask them for shout outs. 2 of them were actually doing a Kickstarter campaign at the same time. And then we just basically cross-promoted each other whenever there was a chance to. Yes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, very useful information, actually. So now you're running a game studio. What do you now have a specific hat, or do you do a little bit of everything?
I do a little bit of everything. For Niche, for the first game, I did the prototype, so the first version of the game. But then we had some programmers, and I only maybe did a little bit of scripting. And we also found some artists, so I didn't have to do art anymore. So I mostly focused on game design, project management, and marketing. For our second game, now I'm doing more art again, and the marketing part as well. And for the third game, I have to do the prototype programming again because our programmers are busy with Nibato. So I switch. The only thing I don't do is sound, but everything else from time to time.
And what about the business side? Managing the timetables and the budgets and stuff like that. Do you do all that too?
Yes, me and my business partner do that together. Every Monday is the business. Have to pay the bills and do the accounting. Yes.
Yum. Yeah. And have you enjoyed the process of becoming organised and becoming a professional studio?
Yes, but I think we're not very organized. So far, since it has been going okay, we don't really have any big deadlines. So we just see, okay, we think the next update comes out in 2 months or something. And if we don't make it, then we just add 2 weeks. And if we would be doing customer projects, then I think we would need to really come up with better management. But as it is, there's not really much to manage. We just have a to-do list. We do it, and if we're late, we're a bit late. And as long as we can afford it, I want to keep it this way because it keeps the stress level very low. And then hopefully we can make games for longer and do it healthier.
Yeah, great. It makes a lot of sense. And what are the future plans for your studio then in the sort of short and medium term?
Yes, so currently we're looking into doing console ports. Not 100% sure how it goes, but we're doing some tests. And we're also looking into potentially trying to do some mobile prototypes because we want to also move out a little bit of the PC space because I feel that we should diversify a little bit because if something happens, I don't know, with Steam and Epic, you never know what's going to happen there. So I would prefer to also have some other legs to stand on. And we're also doing publishing for another game from Switzerland. So we're helping out with marketing. And yes, other than that, we started the third game, which is also mostly a PC game again. But yeah, I think that's what we're doing currently.
Thank you. Do you think you'll do more publishing as you go forward?
I don't know. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, that's a great way to experiment with it, right?
I think if it were games that were very similar to ours, so in the simulation or even in the procedurally generated simulation indie genre, then maybe if we find something that we think we can really help. The game we're currently publishing is something completely different. We're currently adding an online multiplayer mode. It's an arena shooter. So that's completely something other than I usually do with the marketing. So now we can see if our strategies also apply to other genres. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's a great experiment. Wow, I'd very much like to hear how that goes, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure.
In terms of marketing, and I'm really glad to speak to you about this, because you have such a special knowledge. It's becoming increasingly difficult to get discovered. What kind of strategy would you use now as opposed to 2 years ago? How have things changed?
I think it used to be so that you could make an okay-ish game and still sell a couple of copies with it. Now you have to make a really good game to actually stand out or have a lot of marketing budget. But I think for indies, it will mostly be make a really good game, stand out. I see so many people doing really cool games, but they just don't really have a unique selling point. So when you made this concept, when you started it, maybe it was unique then. And then just 2 years later, a lot of similar games came out. But I think you have to, from the start, come up with an idea that you think still nobody has done in 2 or 3 years. But yeah, it's very hard.
Yeah. I think
Marketing,
it's always been like that, even on console and in box product. Many times I'd try and sell something to a publisher and it was like a Me Too game. But really, when you do have something unique or something that hasn't been done for a long time, they will jump on it and get very excited. And it's the same with the audience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's for niche. It was actually, we were very lucky that Spore existed. Because if it hadn't, then maybe people wouldn't have known that they actually want to play a genetics or an evolution game. But we were also lucky that it was also so long ago, and people said, hey, why is there nothing new coming out? And so we could really fill that little spot in the market.
Oh, great.
I don't know. I have to figure out what I would do differently every time we do a launch. So what we're currently trying to do is really leverage our YouTuber and Twitch marketing. We also built some custom tools that just basically go to YouTube and check who made a video of our games and just automates the whole process, so that I still have to manually grab the email address, but then I have a list of everybody who played our game, or I can also check who played similar games and make lists. What we are currently also, so that's one thing we're doing, trying to really, everybody that ever did videos of our game, try to contain them and try to get them involved again. The other thing we're trying to do is having a forum. For us, for a very long time, it made a lot more sense to use Discord. We still use Discord. But for us, the forum is like a long-term investment where we want to make sure that we also have people's email, that we can reach out again. Also, we connected the forum. When you sign up, you can also sign up directly to the newsletter. And a lot of people do that. So we're really trying to have all the players that play our games now also reachable when we do our next game. That's for us currently one of the biggest focus. And also to make them happy. So we do a lot of updates for Niche. Now it's almost 3 years after launch and we still are releasing an update next month. So everybody thinks that, oh cool, if you buy this game, they're actually going to listen to what you have to say and they're actually going to add a lot of stuff. So building up a reputation when it gets rougher and rougher is, I think, something important. And always keeping an eye out on new platforms. So 9gag was something new that we did for Nimbatus. And we just stumbled upon trying that out and it worked pretty well. So we're always keeping our ears high up to listen to any other developers. I talk to so many developers when I go to the events or on Discord, just to see if there's something new that I've missed. I think trying to stay adaptable is one of the most important things.
Yeah, thank you. That's really useful. With your other two games, Nimbatus and Retimed, what did you learn from the first one, and were your Kickstarter campaigns different for those?
So for Niche and Nimbatus, those were the two Kickstarter campaigns. Yes, they were completely different because for Niche, we were sure that we would reach the goal. And for Nimbatus, we had no idea because we had so little time to put into the Kickstarter campaign. With Niche, we also focused a lot on media that is not game related. So we reached out to a lot of blogs who write about nature and biology. And a lot of them actually covered the game. Which is also, I think, a very cool thing about Kickstarter, because those people probably will never buy the game because they probably don't even play games or they don't even have Steam, but they want games about their scientific topic to become available so that people get closer to their scientific topic. So I think in this case, Kickstarter was even some extra money. And with Nimbatus, we focused a lot more on gaming-related audiences. And also quite a bit more on Twitch than with Niche.
Right, yeah, thank you. And so are there like any lessons or 3 pieces of advice that you could give to indie developers learning from your lessons?
I think it really all starts with the game concept. If you make a game concept and you don't believe it's really unique, then I wouldn't even start, or if you're expecting to earn money with it. It has to be either better than all the competitors or just unique in its own way so that there is no game that is similar to it or just far away enough. And I just, for like, I don't know, 80% of the indie games that I see, I wonder why did you even make this game if you were expecting to make money with it, because it absolutely does not stand out. And I know sometimes it's easier to make a simple game, for example, an easy platformer game because it's your first game. But then I would just not try to make your first game your first commercial game. Instead, I would just participate in game jams, do little projects, learn from them. And then once you have a really unique idea, you can spend most of your time. If you want to work on it like 2 years or something, or a year, if you want to put in a lot of time, only do it if the concept is cool enough and unique enough. And make sure you have talked to some people about the concept. And if they're not interested in it, then maybe it just doesn't work. Then I also think you should show what you're doing very early. So for me, the first thing that I showed to people was when I had worked on it for 2 or 3 months. And then you get this first feedback to see if somebody even cares. And if you don't manage to find a couple of people that care, I think it will be hard to actually market the game when it's done. Because the core of your game should already be there after 3 months. And if it's not, then you're working on some irrelevant stuff. And Kickstarter, I think, is very cool, not just to raise money, but also to test if your marketing actually works. So that's one of the reasons, again, why we're doing a Kickstarter also for the third game that we're currently working on, just to see. You have 1 month time to test all the marketing you think would work for this game. And then once your launch comes, you don't have this time. You cannot experiment. It's launch day. It has to work from day one. So Kickstarter is just a good test to get you ready to actually talk about the game in the way that people want to hear about it.
Thank you. And where did you find your first sort of 2 or 3 people that actually care?
At events. So at first we did just local events, showed the game there. It doesn't cost a lot. Usually, hopefully you find some indie space that maybe costs $100 or $200 in your local city. I think there are a lot of those. And then later we also went to international conferences. But I think doing it locally is a good start.
Yeah, it's interesting that you found, the first few people at physical events, rather than online.
Yeah, but it was only the first few. Then most of them were online. Yes.
Thank you. And I think you kind of answered this a little bit earlier on, but is there anything overall that you'd do differently if you had this time again with the 3 games?
I'm not sure. I think there are a lot of small things I would do differently, but like in the broader sense, I think it went pretty okay. For Niche, we did a thing, I'm not sure if it was actually better or not, where we did a silent early access launch. So we released the game when it was still very, very unfinished, and we didn't promote the early access launch at all, which was a bit scary because a lot of people told us that you only have one launch. If you do early access, your full launch will not be a real launch anymore. But it actually worked out pretty well. So this was like the early access spike, and this was the full launch spike. And this was possible because we asked our community that we had built up during the early access to help us spread the word. So we gave them a list of stuff that they could do to help push the game, because we also told them very clearly that if we would be unable to break even with the game, because like 2 weeks before the full launch, even though it had been in early access for a year, it had not recouped its development cost. And we told them that if we don't recoup them, then we cannot update it anymore. And then they were like, what? No more free updates. And then they basically asked me, what can I do to avoid this happening? I want more updates. And then we gave them a list, like, write to your favorite YouTuber and to your favorite press person and share this on social media and do this and this. And they helped a lot, and this actually helped to make the launch as big as it was. So I think the general direction we took was actually fine. There's one thing that I think we did wrong with the Nimbatus Kickstarter, because we had, or at least, not sure if it was wrong, but we will do it differently probably with the third game. We had basically an alpha access backer tier. And so during the Kickstarter, we had this really cool energy where people played the demo and then they got a new update and they stayed involved. And then this ended immediately after we gave alpha access to those who begged for it. And this this lost a lot of momentum. We probably we didn't make so much money with the alpha tier. So next time we'll just probably keep the game for free all the time until the early access launch, and then it's paid. But then you can keep the momentum up and keep the people engaged. I think that's what we will do next time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. I just noticed you mentioned YouTubers a couple of times. Do you spend money on YouTubers? Do you pay them to review your games?
No, we never paid money for YouTubers or Twitch streamers. The only thing we did pay for is, so you can now live stream on Steam. And then we wanted to try that out. And we also wanted to say thank you to all the people who made the video. So we have this big newsletter with our YouTubers and Twitch streamers. And we basically just told them, hey, we're doing paid streams on Steam right now. Come join our Discord. This was also cool because then all our YouTubers and Twitch streamers were in a Discord with us, which is very powerful to just tell them that there's a new update out. And then we paid them $200 for a stream slot. But it was like a mix to try out the new features from Steam and also to say thank you. And I think this actually worked out pretty well. We do that sometimes now. Every few months.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. You've given me and our audience here, some fascinating insights today. I'm really grateful for your time. It's a wonderful little piece of content, and I'm sure everybody's going to really enjoy it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.